Hello, I'm Kevin Dempsey with the American Iron and Steel Institute, representing steel producers in the United States. The American steel industry is the most energy efficient and cleanest steel industry in the world, but we must compete against imports from countries with weak environmental laws. Repeated surges in imports in the years following the Great Recession of 2008 kept our industry operating at unsustainably low levels for a decade, which threatened our national security. This led the U.S. government to impose steel tariffs in 2018. Those steel tariffs have worked. Foreign imports, which took almost 27% of our market in 2017, fell to just 19% 2 years later. This allowed the American industry to increase production and worker hours. Capacity utilization increased from 74% to almost 80% in 2 years. Previously closed steel mills were able to restart and rehire laid-off workers. And the domestic industry began investing billions of dollars in new and upgraded plants. But then the pandemic hit. As our customers in automotive and other industries closed their plants, steel demand plummeted, falling by 25% in April alone. In response to the changes in the marketplace, American steelmakers cut back their production. Our capacity utilization plunged, falling by nearly 30 percentage points between the middle of March and early May, hitting a low of just 51%. That was the lowest level on record since the Great Recession of 2008. These COVID-19-driven cutbacks have been very painful. Some 8,600 steelworkers have lost their jobs just since March. Many other workers saw their hours and pay cut as the result of the drop in demand. But the impact of COVID-19 on the steel industry would have been far worse if the tariffs were not in place. Previous major global economic downturns, like the Asian financial crisis of the 1990s and the Great Recession of 2008, led to surges in steel imports into the U.S. Foreign steel industries dumped their excess production here when demand in their own markets dropped. Luckily, due to the tariffs, that has not happened this time. But without those tariffs in place, history will likely repeat itself. The threat of a new steel import surge is clear when you compare the steel production trends in China and the rest of the world. While steel producers in the US, Europe, and Japan responded to COVID-19 by cutting back on production, the largest steel producing country in the world took a very different approach. China continued to increase its production this year, even after setting a new record level of steel production last year, building up inventories of excess steel ready to flood world markets. And the total amount of global steel overcapacity is once again growing, fueled by foreign government subsidies and other forms of state intervention in China and elsewhere. In fact, according to the OECD, it could grow to as much as 700 million metric tons this year. That is almost 8 times the total steel output of the United States last year. That is why the steel tariffs must be preserved. They are essential to prevent another import surge that would destroy good-paying jobs and undermine a critical U.S. industry. Thank you.